Hey guys, Rich from Over the Fender Garage. We got the engine in. Look at that bad boy. LS3 goodness. 525 horsepower. And it even got damaged in shipping. Guy that put the engine on the crate did not bolt the engine down, so the engine was laying on its side when it got here. Broke the spark plug, broke the coil, and screwed up the wire. Quite something, but that don't matter. I'm sure they'll fix it. But look at that sweetness. And to go behind it, T56 Super Magnum. It's going to be a blast to drive. But I need to get that out of there. That cross member is not going to work. So I got to jack the cab up and cut that off. And get the engine down in here and fit everything in there. Make sure it all works with the floor. I don't know if I want to raise the engine up a little bit. We're going to see. I've done some measurements on it. It looks like the pan might work. I might get away with the factory pan, which would be awesome, not having to change that. The measurements are coming up good. So the next thing to do is get it in here, see how it fits. One thing I am going to do is that these Detroit Speed engine mounts that they sent, the frame mounts, are for the old style engine mount. And the kit I bought, and the engine mounts that came with the kit I bought is the newer second generation style with the bucket, and I'd rather have this than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these off. I'm going to turn them sideways so I can put the engine mounts on there. It's got this angled spot there, so if I cut it off and turn it, and then I can basically set my engine wherever I want. So I can set it back a little further if I want to. I'll be able to clear that and keep the factory oil pan on it, maybe. That's what I'm hoping, at least. And I'm just going to put some shorty headers on it. Don't need no long tubes on it. Shorties will be fine. But the cross member does have to come off. I knew that. I don't know if I can modify that one to work on the back of the transmission, or if I'm going to have to make one. That one really won't be a big deal. But I want to make sure that the floor is going to clear, because if I have to cut that piece out, I don't have it all welded in yet. So we need to get this mocked up. Make sure everything's going to fit. So we'll get on to tearing all that apart, get everything mocked up with the engine, and see where we're sitting. Can't wait to see this thing sitting in there. So, on to taking that one cross member out of there. We'll get that finished up, get that engine set down in there. You take these off too though. So we'll get this all taken apart. First thing I'm going to do is I need to yank all this sheet metal off. Might as well do it that way. That way I can lift up the cab a little bit to cut out that cross member. So I'm going to do it the easy way instead of fighting everything. Make it a lot easier on myself. Get that engine in there and set it down. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to just yank off all this sheet metal, get it out of my way, and then we'll get to working on setting the engine in there. makes it a lot easier to work on now, having all that out of the way. Get in there real simple. Lift up that cab. All right, now we got that thing out of there. It was kind of a pain. We got her out of there. Everything's nice and clean. I didn't have my air compressor on, so I was running out of air. So I wondered what was wrong with my air hammer. Well, no air. But the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove these frame perches for the engine. And what I'm hoping to do is I can just cut their welds off and turn these things straight up or turn them down, either direction. And hopefully that'll work. There's a couple holes in these that I can move them around a little bit. They're in here. They're on the cross member itself too. So if I can move these back and forth. But the engine mounts, the part that goes on the engine so that the stock engine mount will fit, there's a lot of different adjustment holes on them. So I can take and move these around too. So these will basically, these will go basically anywhere I want in that range. So there's a good 2.5 inches I can move this engine mount around. Might even be 3 inches. I don't know. I would say it's 2.5 inches that you can move that sucker around. So, but these are better engine mounts because it's got the bolt that goes through it instead of just the one single stud. So that's why I'm going to use those. And these, I just turn them sideways and drill a hole through it. I got the same thing. So if I turn these up, and I can slide those back and forth, I think I should be able to get pretty good engine placement and hopefully be able to use the stock pan. I don't have to do switching pans and stuff. The next thing I'll do is get this cab set back down and put the engine and transmission together. And we'll get them stuck in the hole here and see what happens. Hopefully it all goes in there really good. That'd be great not to have to change the pan or anything, but let's get that in there. Got the LS set down in there pretty nice. I got to use the stock oil pan that came with the engine, so that's a good thing. There's a lot of clearance down there. The engine is not sitting level yet. It's kind of kicked. I've got to cut the floor out to get the transmission up higher, but I've got good clearance everywhere. I might have to raise the engine up a little bit when I tilt it up. We'll see on that. Let me get that floor cut out and get it set up right. But this has got to be cut out because the throttle pedal's standing up almost straight. Very uncomfortable. So I got to find out where that's going to go. But it should be pretty good. It all fits in there nice. I got the headers on the way. The stock engine mounts, frame mounts that came with this kit. I'm just going to cut this off and I'm going to turn it that direction. And I can use this bucket style engine mount instead of just a single stud, which will be a better. So I'll just drill a hole through there so I can bolt through. But this fits in there perfect with the engine mount. So that's good, and it will sit. You can see those bolt holes down there. It approximately sits right there. So everything is pretty close to being where it has to go. I might have to step it back a little bit. I don't know. We'll see, but I can also do it on that frame perch there. I can move this back and forth before I weld it back on. So that's a simple fix. And everything else seems to work out pretty good. I do have to cut the floor to get it up. The shifter and everything is in a pretty comfortable location. It's approximately where it's going to be. And I didn't weld in all this. I just tacked it in a couple spots, so that'll be easy. We'll cut that out. But you can see the throttle pedal. You're sitting in here, your foot is like straight up. So this has got to go forward. So I'm going to move the foot box forward to probably about 3 inches. Myself a little bit more room in there. It's a little uncomfortable. So, but other than that, everything else is pretty good on it. It's just about there with mocking up everything. I do have the rear suspension on the way too. We get everything in there because there's one more cross member I think it's going to have to come out of there in the center. But I got to pull that engine back out of there so I can do that cutting. Get the floor pan out of the way. Get the floor out of the way and anything else. I get the throttle pedal piece cut out of there too. So I can get the engine set back in there and kind of do a mock-up on that stuff. And should be able to get ready to start setting that in there. Headers and stuff should be here by then. Everything's going pretty smooth on that part. So, let's yank that engine out of there, get that stuff done. Well, I've got the engine and transmission sitting in there now. I do have to cut the floor and raise it up. Transmission's sitting at a really bad angle. So, but this is about where the shifter's going to sit right here. This area. So transmission will probably stick up into here a little bit. Not real sure yet till I get this cut out of here. But with the throttle pedal, I'm 5'11", so kind of setting kind of uncomfortably. The seat could go up a little higher, but the gas pedal is really straight up. I mean, you have to have your foot really straight up. So the bump in the firewall here, this is going to have to be cut out and moved all the way forward as far as I can move that. And then to use the pedals, about the same thing. So this part of the foot box, I'm going to cut this out. And I'm going to move that forward. So I have to do both sides so it looks right. Probably get, if I got about 3 more inches, 4 more inches on the foot box, it'd be more comfortable. So gotta do a little modification on the floors. But other than that, looks like everything else is good. My temporary mock-up steering column. I don't have the steering column yet. So, I mean, that should be pretty good. But yeah, just can't deal with that throttle pedal being like that. That is very, very uncomfortable. It's fly-by-wire, so it's easy to put in. Just gotta make a mounting bracket for it, move all that forward. But it shouldn't be too bad. But we get this part here cut out, get the engine and transmission set level to where I want it, and then we'll work on this foot box and get this all changed and more comfortable. But I got the seat just sitting on a couple 2x4 standing up nice. It's good location. You're not too high, not too low. So we will get the engine and stuff out of the way, and we'll work on cutting this stuff out of here. It's a good thing I didn't weld all that floor in on that part. So, but other than that, everything's pretty good. Coming together nicely. You can kind of see the angle it's sitting at. The dangle to the angle is really bad. So I might just cut. I might be able to leave this part I've got and just cut this part of the tunnel out. That makes it real easy for putting on a new tunnel. Just cut this at the straight area. I can just lift the tunnel straight up maybe. Myself a nice flat, keep that flat center in there. So if I cut across here and then through here, take that piece out and go straight up, then I can leave all this, and I could actually make it to where this piece bolts in if I want, or just the shift area. We'll see. But yeah, this looks like a better place to cut it. It's right here on this flat part. Then I don't have to try to make anything curved or round or anything. I could just do straight up. Give me a decent looking floor on the inside. Good spot for a console to sit on. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. All right, let's yank this sucker out of here. There is the floor piece I had to cut out. So I figured cut it on this edge here. That way if I make something, I could screw it on here if I want, re-weld it on there if I want, put a shift plate cover on there or something. Depends on how easy it is to get transmission in and out, which it should be pretty easy on this truck. But it'd be nice to have a big access like this. But with carpet in it, you'd have to pull the interior back out. So I'll probably just go with the access hole. So you can get through it through the console, take the cover off and pull the transmission out, whatever. But there's the gas pedal area all cut out too. I'll get the engine set back in here so I can figure out exactly where that piece goes, and then I'll get everything reset. Then I'll work on these foot boxes here. Move these out about 3 inches or so. Should give me nice clearance for my feet. Don't feel like a ravioli smushed in a can. Then we'll have to cut this bar off somewhere around back here. Move this whole thing forward and then put this back on. I don't really know if this is a critical piece, so I'll put it back on. It's good for strength. I know the wheel well bolts on this too, so we'll have a couple issues to deal with there. Wheel well probably comes through about right here. I don't know if it goes all the way up to the body or not. I know that's one of the bolts. So we'll kind of mess around with this and figure out which way to go. If we put that back in or not, I'd like to. Just have all strength back in the cab. And everything else is looking pretty good. We'll get the engine in here and get that figured out. Well, I've got the engine set back down in there. I went and did the, I cut out the floor and I cut out where the gas pedal goes. So it would fit down in there pretty nice. It does fit really nice in there. Got a lot of clearance on everything. It's a little, about 1.5 inches in here. So I've got it pushed back to a pretty nice spot here, so I got good clearance there. So take and make this throttle pedal area, close that all in. But it sits real nice. It's into the floor, probably about 2 inches, a little bit more. So it gives me just enough clearance on my drive shaft right in this area, but it's very comfortable sitting there. About a 10-inch stick on it, be very, very comfortable. So that is a good location for it. So I can slide the engine forward if I want to. If I bring the engine up a little bit, I'll be able to slide it forward, but I kind of like where it's sitting, so I'll know more when I get the front sheet metal stuck back on it. And that's what I'm going to do here in a minute. But for underneath, so I'm looking at reusing this cross member from the 6-cylinder. Move it forward here, and I just got to build a little spacer here, about 1 inch, 1.5 inch spacer for the trans mount to sit on. So I'll know more when I get the trans mount. But everything else looks really good. A couple of things I've got to do here. This is going to have to be notched because the drive shaft will hit it. So I'll have to put a C-notch in that. And then this here is either going to come out, or I'm going to have to raise this part of it. Kind of be nice to keep this for a drive shaft safety loop, plus the strength of the chassis. So if I just raise this up 2.5 inches, something like that, that should work. But I'll know more about that when I get the rear suspension done. But everything else seems to fit pretty good. Very happy with how it's sitting. There's more than enough room above the transmission for a drive shaft. So all's good so far. I'm making this fit. So the next thing to do is I'm going to take and stick the sheet metal back on the front here. Check for radiator clearance. Make sure all that stuff fits in there good. A lot of room. But as you can see, the seating position be pretty comfortable. Especially when I move those foot boxes forward about 3 inches. Really be very comfortable. So, get this sheet metal back on here. Check the radiator, make sure the radiator clearance will be good. I can do any modifications I need to do to the inner fender wells. And by then the header should be here, so I can test fit all the headers, make sure everything fits. It'll be good to go. The only thing I'll have to do next will be order the front runner, because I'm going to make sure that fits too before I go and make it set 100%. But it's getting there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw the sheet metal back on the front, check out all the clearances, make sure everything fits good, and I'm happy with it. But so far, so good. Got all the sheet metal on the front here. You get an idea where I'm going with that front bumper. I got to trim the frame horns back a little bit more. They're showing a little too much. Let me trim that back. And then the sides, I'm going to fill this in with just a piece of cardboard or something so I get my idea of how I'm going to exactly go here. If I'm going to turn this, go straight, whatnot. But I'm using the bumper as a form. I'm going to form off of this and put a little bump down at the bottom probably. And somewhere along here, fade it off into there. Same on the other side, just round. The wheel wells fit in here good. I got enough room behind them to move the foot boxes out. So I can do that. It's mainly what I'm checking with this. And I got a little trim here on the coil spring tower here. The coil over. So a little trim there, a little bit of rust I got to fix on them. No big deal. That fits really good. And the same thing over here. A little spot where it's touching here. So I make this, figure out exactly how all this is going to come together. But the engine itself sits in there real nice. A lot of clearance on everything, which is a good thing. I got a lot of room here for a radiator. I'll be doing good there. So I'll be able to measure up, order a radiator for it. Got the headers coming. They'll be here pretty soon. I can test fit all that. And find a front runner. Go through all those, figure out which would be the best one for this. But it's coming along pretty good. Everything fits on there nice. Everything's lined up. So, next thing will be probably finish the rear suspension, because that is on its way. So be able to yank all that out. I cannot find anything for a leaf spring truck, so I have to get a coil spring suspension and do a little modification on that to get that to work. Which shouldn't be too much of a big deal, I don't think, because I haven't been able to figure out what's different on a leaf spring truck to a coil spring truck. So we'll all find out together on how difficult this is going to be, because all the bars on like the bed, floor and stuff like that, they're all the same. There's no difference between a coil spring and leaf spring, so the width's got to be pretty much the same. But I guess we'll all find out at the same time what exactly it takes to get one in one of these leaf spring trucks. But on to finishing other stuff.